The Elder Scrolls community is known for its vast collection of community-created mods. But among all the projects, there is one whose age, ambition, and amount of release content dwarfs them all. Whether you're a long-time player of The Elder Scrolls 3 or have just a passing interest in the game, this monumental mod deserves your attention. I present to you Project Tamriel Rebuilt. This video is designed to be watched as a whole, but if you wish to skip to a specific section, feel free to use the timestamps. The name Project Tamriel Rebuilt is actually a portmanteau of multiple different projects, developed alongside each other with full mutual compatibility. Tamriel Rebuilt is a group of modders aiming to recreate the mainland part of the titular province of Morrowind, which was famously omitted from The Elder Scrolls 3. Project Tamriel is an umbrella term for individual teams creating the other provinces of the Tamrielic Empire. The two groups share assets and even many team members, working together to bring us new regions of Tamriel as they build them from the ground up. While the initial progress was slow, for the past several years Morrowind fans have enjoyed at least one release from Project Tamriel Rebuilt every year, each release bringing many dozens of hours of new content into the game. Speaking personally, I can say that their releases are some of my favorite Elder Scrolls content across all of the games. So today, we will explore the history of this project's development. Most of the information here is taken or directly quoted from Project Tamriel Rebuilt's websites and other sources linked in the description. Although it might come as a surprise to you, the history of Tamriel Rebuilt stretches back to even before the release of the game it's made for. While originally The Elder Scrolls 3 was supposed to take place across the entire province of Morrowind, in 2001 Bethesda announced that only the island of Vardenfell, one of the total of 6 districts of the province, would be the setting. In the wake of the disappointment that followed, some volunteers from the player community had the idea to band together to recreate the entire province by themselves. While most players were skeptical, several groups as well as individuals were determined to do just that. Following the game's release in 2002 and some loose collaboration among various mod authors, by 2003 the core team of Tamriel Rebuilt had decided on a unified standard, ensuring a consistent level of quality for all of the released content. The speed at which they worked was feverish, fueled both by initial enthusiasm and the looming threat of the next official Elder Scrolls title, which they rightly feared would split the modding community's efforts across 2 different games. By 2005, almost all of Morrowind's landscapes were either complete or being worked on, and the same could be said for most interiors on the northeastern Telvannis Peninsula. However, the community was also fragmented and prone to drama, as evidenced by the dramatic departure of the Silgaraut Tower team over what they saw as an unreasonably strict standard of quality for both the lore and game content. The quality of Tamriel Rebuilt itself would also later be called into question many times, leading to further rifts between the modders. After almost 4 years of chaotic development, Tamriel Rebuilt's reputation was in tatters, as it had yet to fully release a single region. In 2006, Bethesda Game Studios released The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Many developers of Tamriel Rebuilt jumped at this chance to start their work anew, deciding to build the province of Hammerfell in the new, modern engine. Learning from their experience, they put a lot of efforts into planning, establishing their lore and quests before starting work on the mod itself, and introducing a stringent review process. They also decided to only accept volunteers who provided a proof of skill. After just a few short months of work, Tamriel Rebuilt released a beta version of the island of Sturk in the engine of The Elder Scrolls 4, marking their first official release. Despite their early successes, however, the province of Hammerfell proved to be too big of a challenge. The higher graphical requirements and voice acting of the game
What? That really pisses me off.
among other factors, meant that in December 2009, Tamriel Rebuilt made the painful decision to abandon its Hammerfell project and refocus entirely on Morrowind. Meanwhile, another project was beginning to take shape. In 2008, Skyrim, Home of the Nords, was formally established after some initial efforts, prior even to the announcement of the official 5th entry in the Elder Scrolls series, which would take place in the Ice-Cold province. Determined to ultimately create the entire province of Skyrim, as presented in the lore of the Pocket Guide to the Empire Volume 1, the team began working on the Reach, the westernmost part of the province, and would release their first alpha version in 2012. The aforementioned creation of Stirk in the Oblivion engine, meanwhile, became the foundation for a budding effort to recreate Cyrodiil in the Elder Scrolls 3. Province Cyrodiil, as it was called then, saw its first alpha release in 2012 as well. While the majority of Tamriel Rebuilt developers were focusing on building Hammerfell in the Elder Scrolls 4, a handful of modders nevertheless stayed faithful to the original Morrowind project, and in September 2006 they finally released the Telvanni Isles. 2 years later, a revamped version of the Isles was released, making it one of the most content-rich and highest-quality player experiences in the Elder Scrolls 3. During the same year, the team also released their second major landmass in an expansion named Antediluvian Secrets, a marked improvement in quality over the Telvannis. The team then began working on several regions at a time to not only create new content, but also bring older releases to the new standard of quality. The third expansion, the Sacred East, would double Tamriel Rebuilt's total playable landmass. However, the amount of available quests was too sparse in places, and the region needed several subsequent updates to fill the enormous landmass with content. Nevertheless, Tamriel Rebuilt had firmly established itself as one of the most successful modding efforts in the history of gaming. Spurred on by their recent successes, the team then decided to tackle Almalexia, the biggest city in the entire province of Morrowind. Because a small part of the city had already been created and released by Bethesda in their official expansion, Tribunal, the team was determined to fit their city seamlessly around this established content. However, the team would spend several years crafting 2 different iterations of the city, neither of which turned out to be satisfactory. In 2013, the team finally realized that the city would have to be made from scratch for the 3rd time, this time re-implementing Tribunal content in a new way instead of respecting the poorly designed official expansion. However, this was such a blow to the team's morale that the city of Almalexia was postponed, and to this day there is a suspicious, metropolis-sized gap in Tamriel Rebuilt's map. Following these issues, as well as the release of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which Bethesda launched in 2011, the team decided that they needed to completely rethink their approach to the project. The years 2014 through 2016 were spent adjusting the team structure, guidelines, and planning process, with only a few minor public releases to bridge the gap. The team was now facing the greatest crisis in the project's history, as unfortunate events kept piling on. The Almalexia fiasco, the leaving of many senior members, serious website issues in 2015, and the decreasing popularity of Morrowind modding as a whole spelled an end for the entire project. Barely 5 to 6 people were still regularly active in the new Tamriel Rebuilt community in the first half of 2016. However, the trend would soon change. Around 2016, the Morrowind community experienced a newfound popularity due to several factors. Tamriel Rebuilt itself massively benefited from the creation of their new Discord server in 2016 and began to work on new content once again. The expansion Old Ebonheart, released in 2018, massively upped the quality standard yet again, being the most content-dense and highest quality landmass mod released for the Elder Scrolls 3 to date. Tamriel Rebuilt had the first expansion that they were truly proud of, where little to no compromises had been made. The next expansion, Antherin, released the following year to similar praise. Tamriel Rebuilt was truly back, and this time for good. Around the mid-2010s, the teams behind Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil moved to a common forum and together with Tamriel Rebuilt established a data repository to ensure consistency across all the large projects. While Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil remained the only Project Tamriel teams with public releases, over the following years many smaller groups would join the Project Tamriel umbrella. High Rock 427, Project Valenwood, Hammerfell, Somerset, Roscrea, and elsewhere Paradise Sugar. Province Cyrodiil fully released the area of Stirk Isle in 2017. Skyrim, the Home of the Nords, which had been in development since 2008, saw its first full release in 2018 with the sizable city of Karthwasten and its surroundings. 3 years later, the city of Dragonstar was added as well. In 2022, Tamriel Rebuilt released 2 expansions alongside each other, Dominions of Dust and Embers of Empire. Although the team had since its revival focused only on adding new content, this time they cautiously decided to release an overhaul of some of their older regions together with newly created lands. A year later, a smaller expansion called Andoram followed. 2024 saw the release of Abyssian Shores, a large area of Cyrodiil which included the great coastal city of Anvil, as well as a reworked Stirk Isle and a large part of the Abyssian Sea regions. Tamriel Rebuilt's crowning achievement would come in 2025 with Grasping Fortune, an expansion centered around the Hlalu metropolis of Narsis, to date the biggest handcrafted city in any Elder Scrolls game. As of the making of this video, the project is going stronger than ever. Tamriel Rebuilt has only recently teased their 2026 expansion, Poison Song. Skyrim Home of the Nord continues to chip away at the enormous city of Markarth's side, as well as the land surrounding the city of Falkreath. Project Cyrodiil is currently hard at work on their next expansion, Salt and Spice, which will include the city of Such and large parts of the Colovian Highlands. High Rock 427 has also entered active development and is currently working on their Scars of the Shadow release. The first expansion of Project Hammerfell is also being worked on, though the progress seems slower. The other provinces are currently at the stage of conceptualization. The history of Project Tamriel Rebuilt, with its many trials and tribulations, shows just how determined the community of Elder Scrolls modders can be, and the great things which mere teams of volunteers can accomplish. One thing is for certain, Morrowind fans still have a long list of high-quality releases to look forward to, and some of them might be closer than it seems. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more videos about the project and narrative Let's Plays.